introduction.
Arrgh, there be pirates here. I once knew a pirate named Pirate Semi, and he would always say one thing. P.S. One more thing for Pirate Semi. So my question to you, matey, is this. You're trying to capture the pirate today, as I understand. Securing the clusters, the Kubernetes clusters. And you have a little game to play. And your name is Andrew Martin, as I understand, and you're the CEO of ControlPlane.
The very same.
Let's see what you got.
Well, avast ye mateys, thank you for the rip-roaring introduction. Yes, we have a Capture the Flag event going on at CloudNative SecurityCon. Super jazzed and pleased to be running this for maybe the third or fourth year. Normally we do this alongside KubeCon for the CloudNative SecurityCon there, but now that we've broken out into our own full event, we have a standalone Capture the Flag. And I'm very pleased to say a lot of the things, the tips and tricks and tools that we can use to play the game are in the book Hacking Kubernetes, which I had the pleasure of writing with the excellent Mr. Michael Hausenblas.
I sense Bitcoin treasures galore!
Exactly so, yes. We have the deadly Captain Pirate Hashjack running amok through our infrastructure.
Yes, I know him. Tough character to find.
Absolutely. So the book is available as a free download. There is plenty more hashjackery and piratical escapades going on in there. And we will have a look at the CTF that we're going to run.
Cool, let's take a look.
Right, so the way we play the game, everybody gets a 5-node cluster. That is 1 cluster per scenario per player. Production-like infrastructure, everything is realistic as possible, including the accents. And it looks a little bit like this. So just from my terminal, I've already got a trust bundle, which is my SSH credentials, Kubernetes simulator play, and we are transported into a pod. So what does this look like? During penetration testing of a cluster, we have found a vulnerability. It's part of the CI/CD build infrastructure, and we're concerned that a compromised build runner may lead to compromised virtual machines. Verify the vulnerability by breaking out of the CI runner pod.
Time to lag, time to get out.
Exactly. So what do? We're penetration testing a pod. We care about the security context. We care about the namespace configuration. We care about how the capabilities and security LSMs like SecComp and AppArmor are configured. But the first thing we do is always just have a look at where we are. We are in root. So we're root inside a pod, which is an anti-pattern in itself. It's a CI runner, so it may have more privilege somewhere. We are the root user in the root directory. And let's have a look at what we have mounted. So our file system endpoints that exist. There's a lot here. So
yes.
When we're looking around a cluster, we probably want to try and identify some tells to figure out exactly what's what here. We can see straight away we've got container D running.
Right.
So we're mounted in there. We know that we've got container D as a runtime. Of course, this is how Kubernetes has evolved these days. That might be something that we investigate further. I also like to look at what we have mounted from 2 different directions. So we can see we've got a lot of temp-fs partitions up here. We can also see we've got the classic service account. We can use that potentially to bounce through the cluster, talk to the API server, find other ways through. And at this point, we're into the red teaming. So what else might we look for? Let's have a look for the content of the virtual file systems. So we've got proc up in here. There's a number of things. You can also see we've got some processes running. Maybe let's try and figure out what those processes say or do. We don't have PS, so we can actually do this in another way. We can go into the proc virtual file system and proc1, let's have a look at the command line. So we're just sleeping. And of course, this is null byte terminated, so we can do a translation of the null byte into a new line. He says, let's do that the other way around. And this low-level exploring of the proc file system, okay, so we've got an infinite sleep going on, so we're just arbitrarily holding open the namespace. What else do we have in here? 81 and 92. Let's have a dig and see what these might be. Okay, so we've got bash, that's where we are. And then presumably this is the process that we're running as well. So it is, because that's an ephemeral process, the ls process that's come up there. Whoops, let's go back into proc. And so at this point, we're just doing our fundamental exploration. What's running in this pod? Can we find something that's vulnerable? Actually, oh, we can't do that. We can go back into proc. Actually, there are no smoking guns here.
Uh-oh.
Smoking guns being operative. And we can see that that process ID is incremented because that's the ls process running itself. So this is the low-level container exploration that we'd like to try and communicate to people.
Right.
So that when they take these lessons back to their day job, they know, for example, this is a sensible container. They haven't shipped PS in the container.
Right.
Minimal attack surface. Now,
so you want to help them figure that out.
Exactly. The rules and the things that we've been told over the cloud native are codified and given the opportunity for people to explore for themselves.
Codified.
Exactly. So I know where the bodies are buried on this particular scenario. So let's just have one more look back where we started. Let's go to those mount points and see what container D is actually saying. Let's just give it some color. The UK version of color, of course. Okay, so we can see we've got a tempfs mount on run container D. We're a CI/CD runner, so this potentially is to run containers. Now, if we go into run container D, we can see we've got the container D socket. This is a bad day.
This is not a good thing.
Precisely not.
New socket.
So we now know that we can take that socket, we can spin up a container, and this is how we start to escalate our privilege.
So now you're going to spin up that socket. Let's see it.
You got it. We know where the bodies are buried. We have a secret way to run this. We're going to pull the magical ns enter container. Okay, so we've now got a way to break into the cluster. And herein lies the privileged flag on the container runtime. We're using the process namespace to go into the PID, we're using the proc virtual file system to go into the process namespace of PID1, and we're going to run ns enter. So we've already run this once. Let's just call it root 2. And from here, we can exec into the container that we've just run. Let's give it a root 2. We run a privileged container, invading the namespace of the process in PID1.
Okay.
And we've now broken out onto the node.
All right.
Started in the container, we've popped out.
Broke it out.
And what do we do? Well, we're back to enumerating. We can see that we're the root user. I wonder what sits in the root user's directory. Dun, dun, dun. That looks like a flag to me.
Yes.
And we've found our first flag of the scenario.
Discovery. So you broke out of the container, and then you went into the node.
Yep.
And then you went to root, and you found the flag.
Exactly. And that flag could be hidden anywhere on the file system. We're lucky that it was placed in a reasonably obvious place this time. Some of our flags have been hidden in the most unusual of UTF-8-based file system structures.
So the whole idea of the game then is to follow kind of the processes to find those flags. And so like the first thing you did was you looked at the mounts, right? You found container D, that could possibly be an entry point. Container D, then you opened that up and you did discover the socket. And so once you found the socket, then you could then start to go deeper, and here we are now.
Exactly so. And we know that with the socket and access to the process namespace, we can then start a container that reuses that privilege in order to mount the host's disk, and we use the NSEnter tool, which is a legitimate debugging tool, and we misuse it to get us onto the host and then swimming out to find the flag.
Here we go. Good, good. Well, what else do we have to see here?
So this is the beginning of a 3-scenario journey for attendees here at CloudNative SecurityCon. This is the easy path.
Okay.
I still, knowing where the bodies are buried, still takes a moment, still go through the standard enumeration, tips and tools and techniques. By the time we get to our 3rd scenario today, we will be looking for 3 flags.
So there's more flags to find. Mm-hmm. So again, this idea is like kind of based on this premise of securing your Kubernetes cluster, doing it through a capture the flag type of game, and this is one example of that.
Exactly.
Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you very much for joining us. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.